The question I was going to ask is, have you got any women, other than your victim, have you got any women coming up later in your film? Or is...
Yes. Because of the investigation, we're going to have some of the victim's friends and her mother as well be key characters in revealing information about the murder victim in order to get to the climax of the actual film.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be no woman in women in a central role. They're going to be the victims or sort of subsidiary characters rather than any main characters.
Not necessarily, because we more want to focus on the relationship and how that grows between the chief and the sergeant. Because in the start of it, if you watch our film, you can see that the sergeant, he has a comfortable relationship with the chief, but it seems as if it's very much a boss to worker rather than actual necessarily true bond of friendship, and that's more what we want to focus on. Because from our audience research, we know that, especially inspired by things like Sherlock, they like the bond between him and his partner.
What was the most effective, I was going to not really planning, but going from your prelim to your main task, what was the most effective element that you learnt? Just in a word.
I'd say the most effective element I learned was the planning, like having to create a storyboard and literally draw out every single shot that you want and just completely know what you're doing is the most effective, because you can stick to that storyboard, you know exactly what you're filming, you waste no time when you're trying to film your scenes, and also when you're drawing, not everything that you come up with in the first is set in stone. So as you're drawing along, you can realise that this shot doesn't really work, and you change that shot, and it helps to create a better piece of media text.
So as that, say, general communication, so everyone in the group exactly has a similar picture in their head. As I noticed from early in our previous shots that when we were discussing it, it was only one person's vision rather than all of us knowing exactly what we wanted to look like and working towards that similar goal.
Teamwork there.
Yes.
For me, it was mainly making the use of the spare time and all the free time that we have in order to make sure our product is done up to date, and rather than having a rush towards the end. I think that helped because we knew when we have freezing, we only have priorities, we only have lessons. So we kind of planned out when we're going to do what. It wasn't like, today we're going to, it was like this, we planned out in like 2 weeks in advance rather than having it just on the day. So I think that helped a lot as well.
I would say organisation on filming day. So when you go out to film, I'd say when you're filming, organisation is important, because if you don't know what shots you're going to film in what order, it's quite confusing, and it ruins the flow of each group member, because they kind of off task, and it slows down the process, and then that means you might have to film another day and the location might not be free that day. So I say organisation is really important.
Have you got anything you'd like to ask?
When you looked at your music, what kind of things did you research to kind of get to the end result?
So film noir, it's quite old, and jazz music, it was represented a lot in our research when we saw it, so we thought we had to, it would appeal to an older audience if we used jazz music as well, but also it just fit the genre of it. So it was in black and white, the first scene, so we thought jazz would suit it pretty well. And in our research, we went into YouTube, we researched the opening to a lot of film noir movies, and they all came up with similar instruments that we use, so like saxophone and a drum kit. So we thought that it would definitely be ideal to use that type of music and try and represent it as well as we could. So that's what we chose, jazz.
And also, what was the reasoning behind, notice you have like 2 different styles of text, what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, as we said before, we wanted to kind of not necessarily attribute it, but have that kind of noir feel to it. So we used a mix of serif and sans serif. The sans serif to kind of give it the older, more noir feel to it, but then the serif to also remind us that it's in the modern era and it's set in present day, rather than just being one or the other. Yeah, sorry, the other way around. Sans serif to modern day and serif for in the past.
Anybody else? Questions? No? Okay. Right, thank you very much.